Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Titoji Nashta Priyashu Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavati Tamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistaki Nigamaka Paragaritam Param Shukamakaramita Dravisamitam Pivata Bhagatam Rashtam Varam Mahora Horasika Sevya Nigamaka Paragaritam Paragate Dhamakane Karonashta Dishamasho Paranako Dunoditam Tamapia Davishute Pishutamibo Samapirina Vidambiroxaram Prakahida Hormaranam Sanklesha Nirvana Musanti Nanyataham Anaito Shakshaman Shakshad Bhakti Yogam Lokasha Jirandra Chakra Satprasamitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Moshle Jayatam Surito Pangor Mama Mandira Matergati Matsavasha Parambo Jarada and Madanaman Sriman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsi Vene Kirsten Vinushan Rupika Gopinata Suryasaram Divyad Vindaranya Kapadvumada Srimad Radnagata Shimashanishto Shri Shri Radha Shri Govinda Prestadavi Seva Manushmarami Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chaji Garitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Gudurajaja Mangalam Buddhiti Kaksho Mangalayana Atarohari Om Narayana Vidmehi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodayate Om Mahadevi Vidmehi Vishnu Panditi Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodayate Mahalakshmi Namastibhyam Namastibhyam Sare Sare Hari Pare Namastibhyam Namastibhyam Dhanari Tapti Kanjana Goni Gira Aravindavaneshari Vishavanasite Devi Pranamani Hari Priye Om Aganati Mirandasya Ganagana Saragya Chaksurin Miritam Yana Tashmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovishtam Stapitam Yana Bhutare Shayam Rupakaramyam Darati Swaparantikam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Good morning, Rob on Zoom. I look forward to some nice zingers at the end of this. Takeaways. Yesterday was every single one of them was very illuminating, penetrating. We also have on Facebook Live Gene by Bobby, John Malik, and Brent Spencer so far, with more to come if we keep true to form. Got the background of Color Festival here. We're kind of getting in the mood because there's a Color Festival on the 12th of August, which is just around the corner. That will be a New Paltz in New York State. There's a devotional community called Bhaktir Bandhav there. And one of our perennial performers since the last 10 years, the star of our show, in fact, Malini's decided to organize a festival in that small to medium-sized town. And the Color Festival performing family is going to gather there and do our best to wow the locals, to create a congenial atmosphere for the temple which is just in that area. And then we've been back and forth with Columbus, Ohio. Columbus is following in our footsteps. They're using our same ticketing platform. They're using our same graphics, our same social media. They're basically tapping our brains with repeated Zoom calls and back and forth on WhatsApp to do a Color Festival in Columbus, Ohio, pretty much exactly like we do it here. And the good news is that they've been in Columbus, Ohio for 30 years. They have a great base of members and a huge pool of students there. They're projecting not less than 3,000 and possibly as many as 7,000 people. That's on September 16th. Also, I got a call from Janardhan, the butter thief, who has been in touch with Krishna Prem. Krishna Prem does great festivals up there in Thunder Bay, Canada. And Krishna Prem's been circling around the idea of doing back-to-back color festivals in Toronto and Hamilton in October. And I'm told by Janardhan that he's going to do it this year. I'm not sure how he's going to pull that off in only 60 days, but if anybody can do it, it's Krishna Prem. He's a genius. All right. Wisdom Wednesday, we decided to entitle our talk today, Gajendra, the Cheaters and the Cheated. Krishna is our best friend. He's our well-wisher. He wants not just good for us, but he wants great for us. If you want to know how good is the enemy of the great, refer to our last Sunday's talk, where we repeatedly encourage people, cajole people, challenge people not to settle for the good, but to step into the greatness that Krishna created us for. And in that mood, there's a lot of discouragement in the Bhagavad Gita about elevation to the heavenly planets. Yesterday, we talked about this material world as a prison house. If you're a demigod, you're likened to a class A prisoner. If you're on the earth planets, such as we are, you're likened to a class B prisoner. And if you're on the hellish planets, or if you're in a less than human body on any planet, that would be like a class C prisoner. So why would our well-wisher, why would someone who wishes the best, why would someone who wishes greatness instead of just good relative goodness? And the difference between the way Krishna blesses you and others bless you, others can only bless you from a relative point of view. They can make things better, but they can't ultimately solve the problems inherent in this material world, which are birth, death, disease, and old age. Even Lord Brahma, the highest created living being in this universe, who himself lives for 311 trillion years, who creates the universe by his mystic powers, even Lord Brahma can't solve the problems of birth, death, disease, and old age. The blessings that Brahma gives are not absolute, they're relative. You're all familiar with the story of Hiranyakashipu. Very briefly, he asked Brahma for immortality. He asked Brahma for an absolute blessing, which can never be reversed or undone. And Brahma was unable to do it. Brahma said, I have to die, so how can I bless you that you not die? I can't give you something that I do not possess. And Hiranyakashipu thought he would be really cute and clever. So he asked Brahma for boons that he not die in the house or outside of the house during the day or the night, on land or sea or air, by any man or beast or by any weapon. In spite of the fact that Brahma gave him all those benedictions and he thought that he had his all bases covered, the Lord found a way to kill him in spite of all those blessings. Nirvarya Pashantia Shashura Parada Denishe Pi Varorjitam. The Lord said that I'll honor all those blessings. I'll honor Lord Brahma. I don't want Lord Brahma to lose face. After all, if I violate any of those boons that he gave Hiranyakashipu, it will bring somewhat disgrace on my pure devotees. And I never act in such a way as to embarrass a pure devotee of mine. However, Nivarya Pashanteya, when Hiranyakashipu tortures his own son, Prahlad, who is peaceful and has no enemies and whose only business is chanting happily, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then, if I have to, I'll break Lord Brahma's promises. I'll break my own promises. I will not stand by idly while my devotees are tortured. But Krishna promises Brahma promises Hiranyakashipu that he can't be killed under any of these varied circumstances. And because Brahma is a devotee of the Lord generally stands by Brahma's promises as the Lord stands by his own promises. Remember, in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord promised not to take role as a combatant. However, the highest inner emotion of the Lord, which can cause the Lord even to contravene boons that have been given by his devotees like Brahma, or even contravene his own promise, is that when the devotee gets in trouble, the Lord forgets the promises that he'd made. He may forget the promises that the demigod made. And in a feverish frenzy to protect his devotees, the Lord throws all that overboard and throws himself into the breach. When Bhishma was on the verge of killing Arjuna, he'd cut off the reins from Arjuna's chariot. He'd smashed the wheels of Arjuna's chariot. He'd taken the bowstring, the bow off of Arjuna. Arjuna was standing helpless and vulnerable. Bhishma rushing towards him. At that moment, Krishna broke his promise not to be a combatant in the Kurukshetra war. Out of concern for the safety of his devotees, Krishna violated his own promise and intervened between Bhishma and Arjuna, picked up not exactly a weapon, but it was a chariot wheel. And with that chariot wheel, he rushed towards Bhishma, Harimi Bahantu Vivam Gadotariya, just as a lion rushes towards an elephant. Similarly, the Lord was prepared to violate the promises of Lord Brahma. As it happened, it wasn't necessary. The Lord's intelligence is always 1 inch beyond as clever as Hiranyakashipu thought he was, not by land, not by sea, not in the house, not outside of the house, not by day, not by night, not by any man, not by any beast, no weapon. I mean, you'd think that that would be equivalent to a boon of immortality, and yet, because the Lord is always 1 inch ahead of us in intelligence, he found a way to fulfill all those conditions at the same time, kill Hiranyakashipu. But he would not have done that had not Hiranyakashipu harassed his pure devotee. So the moral of the story is that the Lord wants only the best for his devotees, and therefore there are many statements throughout the Bhagavatam, as well as in the Bhagavad Gita, which discourage elevation to the heavenly planets. If you were to go from this middle planetary system, or so to speak, this B section of the prison house to an A section, that would be a relative improvement, not a permanent improvement. It would be a relative improvement because you're still in the prison house. So nothing has essentially changed. Your freedom is limited. You're incarcerated. You're at the mercy of the guards and the prison system, and your freedom is terribly, terribly, unnaturally restricted. You know, Krishna doesn't want that for any of his devotees. And so therefore he says you have a limited amount of time, you have a limited amount of energy, and having achieved the rare and valuable human form of life, Krishna does everything he can to encourage us from within the heart, in the form of great saints and sages, and through the scriptural passages. He says, don't waste your time trying to improve your relative position in this material world, but use your time and energy to go back to home, back to Godhead. In the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 21st verse, the Lord says, Te tum bhutva swargaloka vishante tsinya punya martaloka visham evam tvayidorma panogata katum skama kama labante. He says that when people, due to the performance of pious activities, attain to the heavenly planets, they enjoy a higher standard of living, a higher standard of pleasure than what is available here on the earth planet. They enjoy a much longer span of life, extending up even hundreds of thousands of years. I also read somewhere in Prabhupada's purports that the demigods are fully grown and matured within 1 year, and their period of old age and decrepitude and disease only lasts 1 year. So imagine our life. We only live for 100 years to start with, and the first 20 years we spent as basically idiots, as kids, doing all kinds of stupid things. And the last 20 years we spend in disability and invalidity, suffering from Parkinson's or Alzheimer's. And so there's right there, there's 40 years out of a short lifespan of 100 years. Whereas the information that I recall is that the demigods are fully matured, fully grown within 1 year of having had their appearance, and the period of decline, decrepitude, old age lasts only 1 year. So if you're in this material world and you're suffering, that might seem pretty good. It says, Yayidam pushpitam badam beta vada rapatam. You read the Vedic descriptions of the relative benefits of living in Swargaloka, the planets of the demigods, and you might think that's as good as it gets. It's certainly better than living for 100 years under miserable conditions and suffering prolonged birth, death, disease, and old age. But Krishna says that may be good, but I have something much better for you. That may be good, but the problem is it's not permanent. Those who are promoted to the higher planetary system, they do enjoy a longer duration of life. They do enjoy better facilities for sense enjoyment, and yet their time there is limited. When the credits from their pious activities that they performed as human beings is exhausted, then one comes back down again to this earth planet and starts the whole cycle all over again. And because one ends up where one started, one has to reset and go back to the starting line all over again. And one has to do that repeatedly. It's to be concluded that such personalities have not attained the perfection of knowledge. Their knowledge is lacking. Their knowledge is insufficient. Their knowledge is partial. Their knowledge is mixed with ignorance. Ultimate knowledge is to know the absolute truth, the cause of all causes. And it is said that when you know the cause of all causes, you know everything is to be known and nothing remains unknown. Failing to come to the highest level of transcendental knowledge, one becomes subjected to what Prabhupada calls the routine of being promoted to the higher tenets and then coming down. Routine means it happens again and again and again and again and again and again and again. It's repetitive, it's dull, it's ultimately boring. Imagine you drink milk out of a gold pot one day, and then the next day you have nothing but an iron pot to drink the milk out of. Is it a matter of excitement on the day that you have the gold pot as opposed to the iron pot? Is it something to get particularly excited about, that today I get to drink milk out of a gold pot? And is it something that you get particularly depressed about, that today is an iron pot day? I don't think it's any difference, because why? The milk is the same. Milk tastes the same. Basically, the highest pleasure in this material world, the shackles by which everyone remains in this material world, are the pleasure of sex life. And yet sex life on the higher planets is the same sense gratification, the same sensations as it is for the animals, the pig, the mice, the rabbits, the pigeons. They all enjoy the same ejaculation that the demigods enjoy, which lasts only for a minute. And there's so much trouble and arrangements. Yeah, an argument could be made that the animals who copulate at a moment's notice in public, without any courtship, without any expenditure, without any foreplay, enjoy sex life more trouble-free, with less conditions and less restrictions. But what's the difference between drinking milk of an iron pot or a gold pot? Similarly, what's the difference between living as a demigod and living as a pig? The pleasure is exactly the same. So Prabhupada calls this routine living. We're not meant as eternal spirit souls, full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. We're not meant for routine living, doing the same old, same old. We're meant for ecstatic living, excited living, dynamic living, experiencing newer and newer things. So the whole routine of going to the heavenly planets, coming back again, going to the heavenly planets, coming back again, it's like being on a Ferris wheel. You go to the carnival. Spanish Fork used recently, July 20th, 24th, they had their Fiesta Days, their annual municipal celebration, rodeo, entertainment in the park, and a carnival comes to town. Big carnival, takes up several street blocks there. And the most prominent feature of the carnival is the Ferris wheel. You get your ticket, you wait in line, looks exciting. So 1 revolution, you're really excited. 2 revolutions, you're excited. 3 revolutions, it's like, okay. 4 revolutions, you're ready to get off and try something new. Now, we've been revolving up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down for perhaps hundreds, if not thousands of births. And there should come a point where we get fed up. Atato Brahma Tajma Guru Pravajidna Shreyamutamam. There should come a time when we inquire, is there more than this? Why do I have to do this same eating, sleeping, mating, defending repeatedly? And that's where the Lord has the answer. The Lord has been standing by throughout all the previous incarnations, accompanying us, Upa Drasht Anamarta Cha Bharta Bhokta Maheshwaram Paramatmedi Chipi Dehi Shmin Purusham Patam. Inside the body, which is the residence of the individual soul, the Lord himself, Purusha Param, the Supreme Lord, has accompanied the living being as the overseer, the proprietor, and the permitter inside the Dehi, this material body. And he has been patiently awaiting the time when we get fed up with the routine, the humdum repetition of this material world. I gave a talk 2 Sundays ago where material life is compared to being in a car, putting the throttle to the floor with one foot and then the other foot slamming down the brakes. So you're holding the throttle and you're holding the brakes. You're not going anywhere. All you're doing is just spinning your wheels uselessly. So at some point, the living being should, and I'm not saying it's necessarily going to happen anytime in the future, but the living being should, why am I exerting, using up all this gasoline? Why am I causing the wheels to go at potentially 60 or 70 miles an hour, at the same time, staying in one place, spinning my wheels, stuck in this rut? Is there something more than this? And at that point, Krishna from within the heart begins to manifest in himself and sends us to the right books and sends us to the right church or sends us to the right person or gives us insights, revelations from within the heart where he resides. Krishna doesn't want us. He loves us too much to maintain the status quo. And you see in the instance of Gajendra, Gajendra was already in the heavenly planets. He didn't have to get elevated to the heavenly planets. He was already sporting with his co-wives in the Trikuta mountain area, which was located in the heavenly planets already. So in that idyllic circumstance, Krishna sent the crocodile. Now, the crocodile did not come to destroy Gajendra's happiness. He did not come to spoil the party so much as he did to lift Gajendra out of the routine, meaningless, soul-deadening rut of repeated sense gratification and awaken him to his true nature as an eternal spirit soul. You're not this body you're living in, you're eternal spirit soul, so where shall I begin? Every living entity, including you, is eternal. It's the outer body, which is misty like morning dew, musty and crusty after youth passes, earth to earth, dust to dust, ash to ashes. Every living being is eternal. Every 7 years, each cell is replaced. The old body is erased, displaced, effaced. Every cell is changing. We're always reincarnating. The question remains, what are you going to do about material contamination? You can ignore the concept and hit the exit by the nearest route, or you can stay and listen to our lyrics and get a vision of the truth. Is life have meaning, or are you just trying to escape, or you're just breathing and taking up space? Most people are not open. They do not want to know. The question I propose from me to you is, do you have the eyes to see? The soul is eternal. We know it inside. Like, why should I change my body again? That's the beginning of human sense. If I'm eternal, why all the external posturing and pretense? My time would be better spent overcoming rebirth and rising high into the spiritual sky. The human form is an opportunity to overcome the cycle of birth and death, time to realize our eternal state and attain our spiritual body one day. We have free will to make our own decisions, but then we have to face the reactions to the way we've been living. Sense enjoyment is fleeting and shabby. We do it over and over, but it never makes us happy. Not knowing our true nature, we cater to all this temporary stuff, but it's never enough. We cage ourselves in this position. We cage ourselves in this prison. We numb our consciousness to this crummy position, and we allow the media to condition us to additions for this body, which we're not. Ignorance causes dissatisfaction of the soul. We can't imagine why we're not happy. Then we go get crabby and go cold. It's hard to turn back once your soul's been sold. If you don't know why you're here, and be honest, you might find out if you considered the soul. So the Lord makes that opportunity available to us when we've achieved the human form of a life, and when in the human form of life, we reach an impasse. We reach a point when we're fed up with chewing the chewed, doing the same routine over and over again. Like the expert physician, when the patient finally humbly submits him or herself before the physician will not flatter the patient. The physician will not compromise on the treatment. If there's some particular food or lifestyle habit which caused the disease in the first place, the physician will be quite adamant and stern, counseling the patient to distance, to cease and desist from that food stuff or from that lifestyle habit, and if necessary, experience discomforture, inconvenience, to exercise a little discipline, to eat the right foods, to exercise, to do all the right things. And in this way, this physician will only give the patient that advice which is going to cure the patient. And so we're suffering unnecessarily from birth, death, disease, and old age. And Krishna is only going to give us that advice which is going to cure us from the problem of birth, the problem of death, the problem of disease, and the problem of old age. Now, those problems exist in the heavenly planets as well as in the middle and lower planets. Those problems exist from the highest planet of the material world to the lowest. But the spiritual world is significant in as much as there is no birth, no death, no disease, and no old age. So the Lord and those acting on behalf of the Lord, Vedavyas, the compiler of Vedic literatures, for whom the Srimad Bhagavatam, the beautiful story of the absolute truth, is his summum bonum, is the culmination of all his literary endeavors. Vyasadeva, who is Mahamuni Kimba Paresha himself, a literary incarnation of God. There's no one more conversant in the science of devotional service. You'll find that in his summum bonum, the Srimad Bhagavatam, there is not a single instruction for a foolish person to engage in material activities for sense enjoyment, not to speak of helping him in such activities. Jigupsadam dharma kritenu shashara shabhavaraktasha yadharmadam namanyate tasha nivaranam janaha. Vyasadeva, in fact, in the very first canto of the Bhagavatam, in a meeting with his spiritual master Narada, when he gets severely chastised, Narada says that up to this point, all the Vedas that you compiled, there's an implicit understanding that you can use religion for material sense gratification. There are many, many descriptions. You do this, you get that. You do this, you get that. You do this, you get that. So what you've done is you've misled people. You've encouraged them towards sense gratification in the name of religion. And religion is never meant for a relative improvement. True religion is meant for the ultimate liberation of the soul from birth, death, disease, and old age. It's like a true physician, a physician worth his bona fides, will never encourage the patient to continue to indulge or to eat food which is injurious to his health, even if the patient desires it, no matter how much the patient squirms and rants and raves and complains and mumbles and groans. The physician will stick to his advice. Look, if you want to be healthy, if you don't want to be healthy, then do whatever you want. But if you want to be healthy, this is what you have to do. This is what you have to eat. And this is what you have to avoid. And the ultimate result may be temporary, momentary, preliminary inconvenience, but the result will be a restoration of radiant health. Right now, this material body is a symptom of our disease condition. Just like a diseased person, he gets hives, he gets shingles, he gets bumps, he gets measles, he gets chicken pox. There's so many unwanted welts and hives and red bumps and pistils that appear on the outside of the body of a diseased person. Well, can you believe it? This body itself, the fact that we have this body, is the symptoms of the disease of the soul, because the soul needn't assume a material body in order to fulfill its destiny. This is a distraction. This is indicative of disease condition of life. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that we can benefit ourselves ultimately. That means get out altogether of the Ferris wheel, the routine of birth, death, disease, and old age, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. We can do all that by exercising one simple prerogative, and that is to understand Janma karma medivam evam vyo takvira chakvam deham purnarjanma neti mamiti sarjana. If you live this life ignorant and indifferent to Krishna consciousness and the spiritual self, and you die basically with no more knowledge than you had when you took birth, you'll be condemned to take birth again and again and again and again. One is doomed to repeated birth, death, disease, and old age, so long one does not come to the level of God-centeredness. However, Krishna says, Janma karma me divyam. If you take the time and learn from the proper authorities, read the right books, access the right people, the devotees of the Lord, it is said that as a result of that, you will come to know in truth, in depth, the transcendental nature of the appearance and activities of the Lord. Janma means birth and karma means activities. The result of that application of one's God's given intelligence to the birth and transcendental activities of the Lord, the result of that is immense. The result of that simple endeavor is incalculable. Just like the physician may give you a simple instruction. You're suffering these lesions, you're suffering these pistols, you're suffering this rash because you have an allergy to chocolate. As long as you continue to eat chocolate, you're going to suffer. Your life is going to be miserable. Your life will seem like it's not worth living. So the physician gives one simple instruction: stop eating chocolate and start eating broccoli. Well, that may sound like the most horrible thing in the world to some of us. But if you do it, you'll be restored to radiant, good health. All the ugly things, all the miserable things, the painful things, the itchy things will disappear, and your body will be restored to healthy wholesomeness. So similarly, Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that if instead of you hear about the trashy things of this material world, you lend your ears, karna rashayana vidanadaha, to the nectarine topics of the eternal appearance and activities of Lord Sri Krishna, the result will be that if you change the subject matter of your hearing, if you change the quality of what you hear about, which would presuppose changing the quality of people that you spend time with, then purnar deham purnar janma chakram deha pranam neti mamiti sarjana, an amazing thing happens. A miraculous thing happens. The most significant thing will happen to you that's happened to you perhaps in the last 100,000 years or 10,000 births. Something new is going to happen for the first time in millennium, and that will be that upon leaving this present body, you'll not find yourself in a deep, dark womb or an egg or a shell, but you will what is it? Matir Maya Navadim Navipadi Prajasaga Shmitu Chamadanuga. You'll find yourself having been resurrected into your original spiritual body in the spiritual world. Just like fire, when you set a pillar on fire, at first smoke comes up and then the fire rises, the fire ascends to the heavens. So we are not smoke, we are fire. And as soon as you touch off, as soon as you ignite the fire within, that fire of its very own nature will rise and go back to the spiritual world, reuniting with our Supreme Personality of God. So Krishna says, one who knows the transcendental nature of my birth and activities does not, upon leaving this body, take its birth again in this material world, but purnar janma neti mamiti sarjana, but attains my eternal abode. This is the blessing that Krishna wants to give us. No demigod, no planetary lord, not even Brahma, the Lord of the universe, can give one the blessing that after leaving this body, one get off the Ferris wheel of up and down, birth, death, and go back to home, back to Godhead. Now, there may be devotees who, in spite of all this, still foolishly, short-sightedly ask Krishna for material benedictions. Yashaham anugana harishya taddanam sane. Because Krishna has their best interest in mind, not only does he sometimes not give them the material, short-sighted, temporary benedictions they ask for, but he may even take away what they have, all in the interest of restoring him to eternality, bliss, and knowledge. But people tend to be overly attached to material life. They may be devotees, but they may also be attached, this is called mixed devotees, obviously, to their material things. And so Krishna will sometimes show them special mercy by taking away their material things. And that's why amongst certain classes of men, there's a hesitancy to become a Krishna devotee, because They're not ready to have their material possessions taken away. They're not ready to surrender to Krishna, which means they're not ready to get out of prison. They're not ready to be happy. They're not ready to be self-realized. They're not ready for an eternal life of bliss and knowledge. And it's okay. If you're not ready, you're not ready, I guess. There's like, Krishna's not going to twist your arm, smash your head on the kitchen table and force you to the spiritual world. You have to be ready, which means you have to be detached from the sources of your suffering. You have to step away from your lust. You have to step away from your greed. You have to step away from your small-minded mentality. Krishna says those whose hearts are distorted by material desires and who are small-minded worship the demigods. Now, let me ask you a question. If someone deserves $5 million, but you only give them $500, is that not cheating? You know they're worth $5 million, but you only give them $500. Is that not cheating? So Krishna knows who you are and what you're capable of. How does he know? Because he created you. He fashioned you out of his own hand. He made you out of himself, unique and inimitable, a masterpiece. He knows what it is you're capable. He knows your value. And so he's not going to give you $500 when he knows you're worth $500 million. He knows that you're his son. He created you to love you, and he created you to be loved by him. So he's not going to encourage you to become an Indra, to become a Brahma, to become a Ganesh, to become a Varuna, to become a Kuvera. Kuvera is called the treasure of the demigods. Kuvera has material wealth, which is unimaginable. There's no end to Kuvera's wealth. And yet, at the same time, Krishna does not want you to become Kuvera, because that is analogously compared to getting $500 as opposed to being worth $5 million. Now, if you have nothing, if you're on a street corner with a little cardboard sign, "Will work for food," or homeless, or "let me buy some gas," $500 to someone who has nothing may seem significant. But for someone who has at least the bare minimum knowledge that I am created as a son, as a daughter of the Almighty God, I've got the DNA of the all-powerful Lord in me. I've got royal blood flowing in my veins. To anyone who has any inkling or any hint of our royal heritage and background, $500 would be nothing. We would turn up our noses at that. Yadavi mama cheta krishnara nava rasha dumani tadavadi batinaresh bhavati mukha sisti nishtavanam cha. I believe his Munacharya or Kurukshetra Maharaj used to be a king with wealth and followers, and courtesans, girls, and have his pick of any sense gratification that he wanted on any given day. And yet he said, now that I'm tasting the rasa, the mango-like nectar of devotional service, reciprocity between myself and my Lord, when I think of material sense gratification, my lips curl in distaste. It is as if I had been eating old stale bread, as if I'd been satisfied with old stale bread, and then someone came along one day and introduced me to angel food cake made with egg replacer, obviously. That's like, if you, being a son and daughter of Almighty God, settle for elevation to the heavenly planets, you have allowed yourself to be cheated. If someone offers you $500, and if you accept $500, what we have is a perfect match between the cheaters and the cheated. Cheaters and the cheater. You're going to have to do X amount of work, whether you're homeless or whether you're a CEO of a multinational corporation. No matter what you are in this material world, you're going to have to work. You cannot even maintain your body without work. So ask yourself, do I want to work for $500, or do I want to put in the same amount of effort and get $5 million? In fact, an argument could be made that devotional service is easier. It's less stressful. It's less physically demanding than most of the labors that we are forced to do in this industrialized materialistic society. What are the work choices in the International Society of Krishna? Flower garlands, painting pictures, building temples, organizing festivals, reciting poetry, playing musical instruments. I don't know if I mentioned that before. Cooking sumptuous prasadam, speaking philosophy, making friends with the devotees, raising a family, taking joy in seeing your kids grow up as Krishna conscious persons. How much hard labor is there in that bundle of activities? Susukam kartum avyayam. The activities, the result of which is that you solve the problems of birth, disease, and old age, and you turn back to home, back to Godhead. The activities themselves are all pleasing. One time Prabhupada was asked, what do you Hare Krishna do for recreation? Prabhupada couldn't even understand the question. He said, would you repeat that? He had this incredulous look on his face. Did they actually ask that question? I mean, at the moment they were asking the question, in another room, the devotees were chanting and dancing. In another room, people were preparing a beautiful feast. In another room, they were making flower garlands. So someone comes in, some newspaper reporter, like, duh. There's singing and dancing in one room. There's cooking beautiful, cruelty-free food in another room. It's making flower garlands in another room. People are rehearsing a drama in another room. And he says, what do you Hare Krishna do for recreation? His Prabhupada said, could you repeat the question? With an incredible look on his face. And after the person repeated the question, Prabhupada said, it's all recreation. Open your eyes, open your ears, open your mouth. It's all recreation. It's 100% recreation. Yukta hara viharasya, yukta shabdam, yoga bhavati dukkha. Now we've said earlier, and I'll finish with this point, that sometimes to get cured from a disease, the physician may ask you to take a medicine which is a little bitter, or he may ask you to fast from chocolate, for instance, and eat broccoli. However, what the mother will often do in order to get the child to take the bitter medicine is sugar-coated, That way the child can be tricked in a nice way in order to take the medicine. So Krishna gives us the discipline. He gives us the wholesomeness. He gives us the philosophy in terms of singing, dancing, chanting, feasting, discussing high philosophy, and getting the very, very best sort of association from saintly persons. This is like the sugar coating for taking the medicine, for curing the disease of material life. When Dhruva went to his mother and said, my dear mother, I don't have the love of my father. My father, due to an attachment for a younger, prettier wife than you, has withdrawn his natural love and affection for me. What did Dhruva's mother tell him? She said, even if he did love you to his full capacity, and even if he did show his appreciation to you, and even if he did anoint you as his heir to inherit his entire kingdom, he can only give you the love of one father, which is temporary, which is limited. But if you find Vishnu, if you go into the forest after the ways of the great saints and sages, and you find Vishnu, and Vishnu reveals himself within your heart, he can give you the love of millions and millions of fathers. That Vishnu is between the pages of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Every page of the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant to give you Vishnu, who alone can give you the love and the blessings of millions and millions of fathers. Therefore, of all literatures, idam bhagavatam nama parana paramisam uttama shoka charitam chakaram bhagari nisriyasha lokasha dhamyam shasti. The Bhagavatam stands supreme among all literatures. There's no need for any other literature. The Bhagavatam is Vishnu. The Bhagavatam delivers you the love of millions of fathers, millions of mothers, and ultimately results in you being gathered back into the loving embrace of your Father, Sri Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's it for this week. And I mentioned, I think next week we'll do Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And the following week we'll probably be off because I have to go to New York, and I'll be returning on a red-eye flight Sunday night, August 14th. So I doubt we'll have sessions that week. But next week we're on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Yes, that's Shukshma's asked that question. Did I see something about another house near New York City, new pouts? They just keep going and going out from Midam. Are they actually going all the way east for that? And I said, yes, I am. Yes, I am. And if you're traveling, Shukshma travels all over the country. She's a professional driver. Please, if you can arrange your schedule to be in New Paltz on the, what is it? I think the 12th of August. Join us for the Ecstatic Festival of Colors there for the first time, the inaugural Festival of Colors in New Paltz, New York. Jean is here with pranams. Bhai Bobby gave pranam. John Malik gives a Hare Krishna. Brent gives pranams. Govinda Dev, Hare Krishna. Shukshma, yes, reminds us that next weekend is the Rath Yatra Festival in Venice Beach. She is en route, she says, to be there. It's Sunday. The parade starts in Santa Monica at the Civic Center around 11-ish, I think, reaches the Venice Pavilion at around 1 o'clock. And then all afternoon long, there is entertainment on 2 or 3 different stages. There's a feast, which is served out free of charge for 10,000 people. And there are also gourmet items like curd steaks and lassis available for sale. Lots of chanting, lots of dancing, a whole menu of stage entertainment. I was the MC for the first 28 years of the LA Rath Yatra. And now I think it's over 50 years history. Yeah, so if you're anywhere near or anywhere within driving distance, highly recommend attend the Venice Beach Rath Yatra. Carmen Andrea B gives us a hearty Hare Krishna, Sundari Priya. Please accept my obeisance, all glories to Prabhupada. Thank you for that. The croc wasn't meant to stop, but to pop Gajendra to the top. What do you think, Rob? Give us your, wait a minute, let me turn the, I think I may have the sound too low. Okay, we have somebody else weighing in here with a pithy phrase. Listen to this, Rob. Rob's not on Facebook, so I have to read it to him, okay? Listen to this and give us your opinion. The croc wasn't meant to stop, but to pop Gajendra to the top.
I'd say that's pretty excellent. They need to keep doing that.
You got a partner in crime now. Okay, now I've got also from Govinda Dev. Govinda's, one of his favorite bands is a band called Fish. And he goes on an annual pilgrimage with his family to Denver when Fish does their concert in Denver. He even gave a Saturday night feast lecture, which was very well received, on the transcendental lyrics in the Fish songs. And so he shared something with us here. I'll read it to you. There must be something more than this. There must be something more than this. In a world gone mad, there must be something more than this. That's a song by Fish. That could have been written by devotees. I think you'll agree. Yes. Okay, what else do we have? Shali says Hare Krishna. What else? I'm scrolling down here. And then Jean says magnetic voice as always. All right. So we come to, last but not least, Rob. We've already got one pithy phrase. Can you give us what you have? And we'll throw it all together and post it.
Absolutely. We'll make a pithy phrase stone soup.
A pithy
All right.
phrase soup.
No matter what,
not to be confused with the primordial soup. Thank you very much.
No matter what games we play, Krishna always finds a way.
Cool.
A promise he will break for his devotees' sake.
Mm-hmm.
Gold pot, iron pot, it matters not. Just like the Ferris wheel, the material world loses its appeal.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Religion shouldn't worsen your condition, but elevate your spiritual position.
Spot on.
If you never learn, you can't stop the karmic turn.
Mm-hmm. True.
When you take to God, there's no more egg or womb, no more grave, no more tomb.
I like that.
And our devotion is recreation.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Not only spot on, but very prolific this morning as well. And we have another rising star as well. So I look forward to making our pithy soup.
Haribo.
Haribo. Thank you, everyone. I think we ended up this week, Wisdom Wednesday, on a really upbeat note. And I'll look forward to being with you again on the weekend, as well as next Motivational Monday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.